The Evil Dead franchise is back, and this time it isn't just trying to scare you, it's trying to make you uncomfortable. Evil Dead Burn takes the horror in a much darker direction, delivering one of the most brutal and intense entries the franchise has ever seen. The story follows Alice, a woman who's struggling with the loss of her husband. Hoping to find some peace, she visits her in-laws at their isolated family home. But if you've ever watched an Evil Dead movie before, you already know that peace never lasts for long. It doesn't take much before an ancient evil is unleashed, and one by one the family begins transforming into terrifying deadites. From that point onward, the movie barely gives you a chance to breathe. What starts as a grieving family's reunion quickly turns into a full-blown nightmare filled with demonic possession, horrifying violence, and non-stop survival. And trust me, some of the kills in this movie are absolutely insane. Without spoiling anything, Evil Dead Burn features some of the franchise's most creative and disturbing horror sequences. Everyday household objects become terrifying weapons, practical effects are used brilliantly, and the gore is turned up to a level that even longtime horror fans might find shocking. One thing this movie does really well is its atmosphere. The isolated house, the constant feeling that nobody is safe, and the slow build of tension create a sense of dread that stays with you throughout the film. Unlike many modern horror movies that rely only on jump scares, this one mixes psychological tension with brutal physical horror, making every scene feel unpredictable. Visually, the movie looks fantastic. The cinematography is dark and gritty, the makeup effects are incredibly realistic, and the deadites themselves are genuinely creepy. If you're someone who appreciates practical horror effects instead of heavy CGI, you'll probably have a great time watching this. The performances are also surprisingly solid. Sohaila Yacoub carries much of the emotional weight of the film, making Alice feel like more than just another horror movie protagonist. Even when the story gets completely insane, the performances help keep everything believable. Now let's talk about where the movie isn't perfect. The biggest criticism is the story. While the horror never slows down, the narrative sometimes takes a backseat to the non-stop violence. Some characters don't get enough development, and if you're expecting deep franchise lore or major mythology reveals, you may end up a little disappointed. The movie is also extremely violent, and I really mean extremely. This is definitely not for viewers who are sensitive to blood, gore, or disturbing imagery. But if you're an Evil Dead fan, that's probably exactly what you're here for. So, is Evil Dead Burn worth watching? If you love brutal horror, practical effects, relentless tension, and the classic deadite madness, then absolutely yes. This movie doesn't try to reinvent the franchise. Instead, it doubles down on everything that made Evil Dead famous: blood, chaos, and unforgettable horror moments. However, if you're looking for a slow burn psychological horror or a deeply emotional story, this may not completely satisfy you. My overall rating for Evil Dead Burn is 7.8 out of 10. It's brutal, intense, visually impressive, and packed with enough terrifying moments to satisfy most horror fans, even if the story isn't always as strong as it scares. But what about you? Have you watched Evil Dead Burn yet, or are you planning to see it in theaters? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, this is Binge Bazaar Review, signing off. See you in the next one.